The worst criminal in NFL history. The killer of 7, Robert Rozier. What if the collision on the football field wasn't the most perilous game that an NFL player ever played? Meet Robert Rozier, whose gruesome deeds off the field stunned the entire country. How did this former football great end up being the most notorious offender in the history of the NFL? On April 1st, 1986, a horrific discovery stunned the neighborhood when the body of Raymond Kelly, a pillar of the community, was discovered in his automobile. Raymond's lifeless body was there with many stab wounds and his ears were removed, perhaps stolen as macabre mementos by his killer. Many in the community looked up to Raymond Kelly as a pillar of society and respected him for his many achievements. His loved ones and the people in his community are in shock and grief over the horrific act that was committed against him. The authorities conducted a thorough investigation, but the reasons for this horrible deed remain unknown. Raymond's death sparked speculation about the identity and motivations of the killer. The savage snipping off of his ears suggested a disturbing amount of brutality and, perhaps, a sick craving for souvenirs. The community's collective gasp of terror is a grim reminder that trouble can lurk even in the most placid settings. The murder of Raymond Kelly, which has never been resolved, serves as a sobering reminder of the precarity of human life and the incessant demand for fairness in the world. Shockwaves have been felt throughout Miami when the police department made a frightening discovery. There are 2 cases of murder involving white men, and in both cases, the victims' ears had been mysteriously removed. Because of this puzzling fact, police have begun to worry that a brutal serial killer is operating in their midst. Authorities were first perplexed by the apparent randomness of the first victim's murder a few weeks ago. But when a second body was discovered bearing the same gruesome hallmark, suspicions were raised. A similar method of operation provides compelling evidence for a premeditated pattern, pointing to the involvement of a methodical and well-planned murderer. The Miami Police Department was formed as a special task force to investigate this terrifying incident and bring the criminal to justice as soon as possible so that the residents can once again feel safe in their own homes. Residents are asked to stay on guard and report anything that seems out of the ordinary while investigations continue. As Miami braces for the exposure of a sinister figure hiding in the shadows, the hunt for the killer heats up. Shockwaves have been felt throughout the community after the arrest of a black man named Notorious Israel, also known as Robert Rozier. His admission raises serious concerns about his involvement with the Nation of Yahweh, a religious sect that has come under scrutiny in recent years. The arrest of Notorious Israel and his subsequent confession have prompted speculation about the role played by extremist groups in undeserved neighborhoods. The charismatic leader of the Nation of Yahweh, Yahweh ben Yahweh, has been accused of leading his followers down a path of hate, violence, and racial segregation. His example illustrates all too clearly the peril that might result from an individual's exposure to extremist ideology. As the investigation progresses, authorities are making every effort to collect evidence and deliver the victims and their families some kind of justice. The shocking tales about Notorious Israel's involvement with the Nation of Yahweh highlight the tangled web of influences and motivations that can lead people astray. Notoriety was achieved by former National Football League player Robert Rozier due to his difficult path, which was marked by drug use, criminal activity, and bad behavior. Rozier was born on March 5th, 1957.
America was set in motion the moment they brought niggas to the shore.
And his athletic ability led him to playing linebacker with the St. Louis Cardinals in 1979. Rozier's birthday is March 5th. However, he made several questionable decisions that led to the demise of his once promising football career. Rozier's downward spiral started when he became a member of a cult that was known as the Brotherhood. While under its influence, he became involved in unlawful acts, such as trafficking of drugs and the fraud of financial institutions. As part of some sick initiation ceremony, he even acknowledged to take part in the murder of 7 people for ritualistic purposes. Rozier's involvement in criminal activity did eventually catch up with him, which resulted in his apprehension and subsequent collaboration with police, which resulted in a sentence reduction. In exchange for his testimony against other cult members, his sentence for the crimes he committed was lessened. Following his release from prison, he chose to live a solitary existence in an effort to put his problematic past behind him. The religious group Nation of Yahweh arose in the 1970s, and at first, it seemed like it would be a force for good and underprivileged black neighborhoods. Hulon Mitchell Jr., also known as Yahweh ben Yahweh, the group's charismatic leader, advocated black pride, economic development, and individual agency. A more sinister reality, however, arose from behind this mask of social progress. The Nation of Yahweh got increasingly involved in illegal acts, despite the fact that some of its members definitely had good intentions and wanted to improve their communities. Yahweh ben Yahweh, who in the 1980s ordered his followers to execute violent acts against people he deemed enemies or adversaries, was prosecuted and convicted with conspiracy to commit murder. Many people who had believed in the Nation of Yahweh's promises of social reform had their faith broken by the revelations surrounding the group. It's a sobering reminder that evil may lurk at the heart of even the most altruistic of institutions. The example of the Nation of Yahweh shows how critical thinking and healthy skepticism are essential when assessing any political or ideological movement or group. Yahweh Ben Yahweh, also known as Yulon Mitchell Jr., was a controversial figure who served as the leader of the Nation of Yahweh, a religious group with its headquarters in Miami, Florida, throughout the 1980s and early 1990s. Yahweh Ben Yahweh was born Yulon Mitchell Jr. The leadership of Yahweh Ben Yahweh was mired in controversy due to allegations that he indoctrinated his followers and incited them to commit acts of violence against white people. It was under his leadership that the teachings of the Nation of Yahweh, which merged aspects of Black Hebrew Israelite ideology with a considerable emphasis on self-empowerment and racial pride, garnered a substantial amount of attention in the public eye. However, the activities of the group also created issues, as former members accused Yahweh Ben Yahweh of engaging in manipulative tactics in order to control his followers' ideas and behavior. This prompted more questions about the legitimacy of the organization. In 1990, Yahweh Ben Yahweh and some of his followers were indicted on federal charges connected to a slew of violent crimes that the group is reportedly responsible for committing. The accusations, which included conspiracy to commit murder, were brought about by the United States Attorney's Office. Although Yahweh Ben Yahweh was ultimately found not guilty of the murder charges, he was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to time in jail for his involvement in the plot. The trials captured the attention of the national media. The leadership of Yahweh Ben Yahweh, as well as the claims that have been made against him, continue to be a topic of discussion and investigation. This serves to illustrate the intricacies of religious movements, as well as the possible hazards of extremist beliefs. Robert Rozier, a fascinating figure in the annals of American criminal history, set out on a path that included fanaticism, brutality, and in the end, redemption. Rozier became a member of the Yahweh Brotherhood, a religious cult that was led by Yulon Mitchell Jr., also referred to as Yahweh Ben Yahweh in the early 1980s. Rozier committed a slew of terrible murders while he was a member of the Brotherhood. These atrocities were motivated by the radical doctrine of the cult. However, Rozier's life took an unexpected dramatic turn when he was caught and faced the possibility of serving a lengthy jail sentence. This changed the trajectory of Rozier's life. In desperation to find a way out of his predicament, he took the strategic choice to work with law enforcement and become a critical witness against Yahweh and his followers. The testimony presented by Rozier was essential evidence that helped lead to the conviction of Yahweh and many other cult members. After that, he was forced to deal with the repercussions of his own conduct and received a prison sentence as a result. This remarkable story serves as a good example of the intricacies of human nature and the possibilities of redemption, even in the most hopeless of situations. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.